My name is Natalie Smith. I'm 32 years old, and here's how my story begins, quietly, stupidly, painfully normal, right before everything cracked. Tuesday night. I remember the warmth of the takeout bag against my arm as I climbed the stairs to our apartment, thinking I was doing something thoughtful. My boyfriend Jay had texted earlier saying he was exhausted. I'd had a long day too, but that's what you do when you love someone. You try to make things a little easier. I unlocked the door with a smile already forming, one of those instinctive soft smiles you don't think about. But the second I stepped inside, that smile died. Jay was standing in the living room, arms crossed, posture rigid, eyes cold. His phone was in his hand like he'd been gripping it hard enough to bend it. "Natalie," he said, "we need to talk." 4 words that should come with a warning label. I set the food down carefully, my heart tightening with that familiar sense of something being wrong. "Okay. What's going on?" He swallowed, jaw tight. "Are you cheating on me?" The question wasn't just a punch to the gut. It felt like he shoved it in, twisted it. "What? No, Jay. Why would you even—" "My sister saw you," he snapped. "Last Thursday, at that bar downtown, with some guy. She said you two looked very comfortable together." His sister. Of course. Everything in Jay's world filtered through her before it reached him. I took a slow breath. That was my new manager, Jay. I told you I was meeting him for drinks because the office was too loud for quarterly review discussions. You knew about that. He stared at me like the explanation was somehow an insult. You didn't tell me he was attractive. I actually let out a tiny, incredulous laugh. I didn't realize I needed to pre-approve the physical appearance of my coworkers. Should I submit everyone's photo to you in advance? Wrong thing to say. He flinched like I slapped him. "Don't laugh at me," he barked. "My sister says you were touching his arm." "I wasn't touching anyone," I shot back. "Why would she lie about that?" "Because she's protecting me," he said, voice soft but sharp. "She's never been wrong about people. She warned me about my ex, and she was right. She's always right." Ah, there it was. The sentence I'd heard versions of for 3 years. My sister thinks, my sister said, my sister knows. I felt something inside me wither. "So that's it," I asked quietly. "You're just taking her word over mine?" No questions. No chance to explain nothing. Jay didn't blink. My sister wouldn't lie to me. And that was the exact moment something inside me clicked off like a light switch flipped downward with finality. People talk about heartbreak like it's one big explosion of pain, but for me, it was the opposite. It was silence. A cold, still silence. "Fine," I whispered. "If that's what you believe. Fine." I picked up my purse, grabbed my keys, and walked out. He called my name once, but it was half-hearted, like even he wasn't sure if he wanted me to stop or keep walking. I drove straight to my friend Marissa's apartment. She didn't ask questions, just opened the door, saw my face, and handed me a blanket. I ignored my phone buzzing all night. But here's the part Jay didn't know, the part that still burns behind my ribs even now. His sister had come over last week Tuesday night when Jay was working late. She said she needed to borrow something, random, harmless. Or so I thought. But the moment she stepped inside, something felt off. She was dressed too nicely for a casual visit. Hair done, makeup, perfect perfume, heavy. She lingered in the doorway too long. She kept drifting closer to me, invading my space with a little smile that wasn't friendly, something sharper, something appraising. So she'd said, "Are you happy with Jay?" "Really happy." I remember blinking, thrown off. "Yes, of course I am." She tilted her head. "You could do better, you know. Way better." I laughed awkwardly. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, come on, Natalie. You're gorgeous. You could have any man you wanted. Jay's lucky. Too lucky." Her fingers brushed my arm, then light, slow, deliberate. My stomach dropped. I stepped back. "What are you doing?" She smiled. "I just think it's funny," she whispered, "how he doesn't appreciate you. If I had someone like you." My instinct screamed danger. I slid my phone into my back pocket and quietly hit voice record. I didn't get the beginning, but I got everything after. Because the next second she put her hand on my waist, actually tried to pull me closer. And when I pushed her away, she laughed, like I'd done something adorable. "I'm serious," she murmured. "Jay doesn't deserve you. But I could make you feel—" "Get out," I said immediately. Her smile evaporated. "Don't pretend you're better than me," she hissed. "You'll regret this. I promise." And then she stormed out. I stood there, shaking phone, still recording in my hand, wondering if I should tell Jay. But I knew how it would go. She'd deny it. He'd believe her. And I'd become the crazy girlfriend jealous of the amazing sister. So I stayed quiet. But she didn't. She struck first. And Jay believed her. That hurt more than anything she did. I lay awake all night at Marissa's place, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 5 years, every red flag, every instinct I'd ignored. By Thursday afternoon, after a day of working from Marissa's couch, I finally turned my phone back on. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, Jay's name over and over. But only one message mattered. I want to talk, face to face, and I want your sister there too. I sent it to him. He responded instantly. Why? I typed slowly. Because she's part of this. Either she's there or I'm not coming. After a long pause, he wrote, fine. Saturday at 2, our place. Good, I had a recording to play. And for once, the truth would be louder than her lies. Saturday arrived, like a storm cloud that had been forming all week, dark, heavy, trembling, with something inevitable. I showed up at 1:55 p.m., 5 minutes early, clutching my phone, my laptop, and the cold, steady fury that had replaced the heartbreak. I knocked. The door opened. Jay looked wrecked. Hair a mess, face, pale dark circles carved beneath his eyes like bruises left by sleepless nights. For a tiny traitorous second, my heart twinged. But then I remembered what brought us here. He stepped aside silently. I walked past him. His sister was on the couch, legs crossed, chin lifted, wearing that smug little smirk that instantly made my skin crawl, like she was too good for the oxygen in the room. Okay, Jay said stiffly, shutting the door. We're here. Talk. I placed my laptop on the coffee table, opened the folder I'd prepared, and clicked on the audio file. It felt surgical, clinical, no emotion left. Actually, I said calmly, I'd like to let this talk for me. His sister's straightened eyes narrowing. What is that? I hit play. Her voice filled the room instantly. You know you could do so much better than him. I mean it. Jay's lucky you're way out of his league. Jay's head whipped toward her. My voice, she muttered, her smirk wavering. The recording continued. If I had someone like you, I'd never take you for granted. What are you doing? Oh, come on, Natalie, don't pretend. Get out. Then the last part, her venom wrapped in silk. You'll regret this, I promise. I stopped the recording. Silence dropped into the room like a stone. His sister had gone white. Jay looked like someone had driven a spike through his ribcage. When was this, he whispered. Last Tuesday, I said. While you were working late. She came here. His voice cracked. I nodded. She said she needed to borrow something. He stared at his sister, disbelief shaking his words. You tried to what the hell? She jumped up fast. He faked it. Jay, she edited that. This is what cheaters do. They manipulate, they twist things. It's literally your voice, I said. Your tone, your laugh, your threats. She pointed at me like a cornered animal, all teeth and fear. She's lying. She's been lying from the beginning. No, Jay said quietly, too quietly. You're lying. His sister's face contorted. You're really taking her side over mine. I've protected you your entire life. I warned you about your ex. I've always been right, Jay. Always. Protected. Such a pretty word for control. He shook his head like he was waking from a trance. Get out. She froze. What? Get out, he said again, louder now. Leave my apartment. She stared at him, stunned, then furious. This isn't over, she spat at me. You think you've won? You have no idea what I can do. Jay pointed to the door. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frames on the wall. We both stood there in the aftermath, the silence suffocating. Finally, Jay whispered, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I should have believed you. I should have... Stop, I said. He blinked, confused. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I was just tired. Bone-deep tired. I'm leaving, I said simply. What W? Why Natalie? No, please. I walked past him into the bedroom and pulled out my suitcase. He followed me like a shadow voice, cracking with every word. Please wait, don't do this. I believe you now. I'll cut her off. I'll block her. Whatever you want, I'll do it. I packed with steady, numb hands. Clothes, essentials, laptop, chargers. You don't get it, I said softly. It's not just what she did. But I apologized, he pleaded. I swear I didn't know she. It's that you believed her over me without even asking, I said, turning to face him finally. 5 years, Jay. 5 years of love. Trust building a life. And all it took was one accusation from her, and suddenly I was a cheater. His face crumpled. I was scared, he whispered. I don't care what you thought, I said, not harshly, just honestly. The trust is gone. Tears ran down his face. He reached out, but I stepped back. I'm staying at Marissa's, I said. I'll come back for the rest of my things later. You're breaking up with me, he choked. I don't know what I'm doing yet, I admitted. I just know I can't be here right now. I zipped the suitcase, walked to the door. He followed me to the doorway, voice barely steady. Please don't go, Natalie. We can fix this. Counseling, therapy, anything. I'll do anything. I needed a boyfriend who trusted me, I said quietly. You weren't that person. I stepped outside. He stood there, broken, shaking, saying my name like a prayer or a drowning man reaching for a life raft. But I kept walking. The calls started within an hour. Voicemails, texts, apologies, walls of panic and regret. I ignored all of it. But the next morning, something worse arrived. A call from my boss. Hey, Natalie, I need to ask you something uncomfortable. Are you going through something at home? My blood turned to ice. Why? He sighed heavily. We got an anonymous complaint. Someone claiming to be your boyfriend's sister. She said you've been harassing her, making unwanted advances. Said you're unstable. My breath caught. Jay's sister had launched her revenge. She wasn't just lying. She was trying to destroy me. By the end of the day, HR pulled me in. I had to explain everything. I had to play the recording again, this time in a corporate meeting room. They believed me, but sent me home on a cooling-off period. Unpaid. I went straight to a lawyer after. He looked at everything and said, keep the recording. Document everything. And don't underestimate someone like her. I didn't, because I knew exactly the kind of enemy she was. I'd seen it in her eyes when she said, this isn't over. She meant it. By Monday morning, the situation had mutated into something far uglier than I expected. Over the weekend, I kept telling myself that the worst was over, that the confrontation with Jay's sister, the recording, and leaving the apartment were the peak of the chaos. But she wasn't done with me. Not even close. I arrived at work craving normalcy, a routine, a moment where my life didn't feel like glass cracking beneath my feet. Instead, my manager asked to see me with a forced, uncomfortable smile that made my stomach knot immediately. He closed the office door gently, sat down, and folded his hands. Natalie, I'm so sorry to bring this up, but are you going through something at home? My pulse spiked. Not exactly. Why? He exhaled. We received an email over the weekend. Someone claiming to be your boyfriend's sister. She said you've been harassing her, making unwanted advances, and that you're unstable. Unstable. The word hit harder than the accusation. I felt my throat tighten, my hands going cold. My manager continued quickly, maybe because my face had drained of color. I don't believe it, he said. This doesn't sound like you at all, but HR has to follow protocol. Protocol, a word that suddenly felt like a trap. 2 hours. That's how long I spent in the HR room, explaining everything, walking them through the situation, answering questions I never imagined having to answer about my own sanity or character. And then I had to play the recording again. Her voice, the flirting, the manipulation, the threat echoed through the conference room like poison being vaporized into the air. HR listened, uncomfortable, sympathetic, but bound by the same rules that held me hostage. They put me on a 3-day unpaid leave while they documented everything. 3 days of missing pay because of a lie. 3 days of being punished for something I didn't do. I walked out shaking, furious, humiliated. Then I immediately called my lawyer. He didn't sound surprised. She escalated faster than expected, he said. This is textbook harassment and defamation. We move forward. He sounded calm. I wasn't. But somehow she wasn't finished. The next day, my landlord called. Ms. Smith. We received a report about domestic disturbances at your apartment. Yelling. Possible violence. My mouth dropped open. I haven't lived there since last week. He hesitated. I understand, but your name is still on the lease. If we get more complaints, I'm required to take action. The implication sat heavy in my chest. She wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to destroy my foundation, my job, my housing, my reputation, piece by piece. Then came Wednesday. My mom called crying big, ragged sobs that made my heart sink. Natalie, what's happening? Jay's mother called. She said you're cheating, that you attacked his sister. She said the police were involved. Baby, please tell me this isn't true. I felt something break inside me, not angry, not hurt, exhausted. Mom, I said quietly. None of that happened. I explained everything. The accusation, the confrontation, the recording, the lies. Then I sent her the audio file. My mom went silent. Then she transformed from devastated to furious in seconds. That woman, she snapped. I'm calling her right now, and we are settling this. Mom, don't. But she had already hung up. 20 minutes later, Jay's mother called me, her voice cold enough to frost a window. You're manipulating everyone, she said. You have some nerve turning your mother against us. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I have a recording of your daughter trying to seduce me, I said calmly. Do you want to hear it? For a long, thick moment, she said nothing. What she finally whispered. It's her voice, her words, her threat. Silence again. Then send it. My lawyer advised against it, I said. But by then, my mother had already sent it to her. She didn't call back. On Thursday afternoon, the doorbell rang at Marissa's place. Marissa peeked through the peephole and turned to me. It's Jay. I hesitated, then stepped outside. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red, his face drawn tight with guilt and panic. Natalie, he whispered, please, just hear me out. We don't have anything to talk about, I said. 5 minutes, he begged. Please. Something in me softened, not enough to forgive, but enough to step to the side of the porch with him. He took a deep breath. My parents confronted my sister, he said. My mom heard the recording. They're devastated. They're not talking to her anymore. I didn't respond. And my sister is still denying everything. She's saying you manipulated her or that the recording is fake. But my parents don't believe her. Neither do I. I let out a tired exhale. Okay. I filed a police report about her false claims, he continued. I called your job and told them she lied. I'm doing everything I can to fix this. That doesn't fix the trust, I said softly. He flinched like I had punched him. What do you want me to do? He whispered. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it. I want to go back to the moment you accused me, I said, and see you choose me. He closed his eyes. I can't change that. I know, I said. That's why I can't come back. His tears finally fell. He reached for me, but I stepped away. Please don't give up on us. You gave up first. I walked back inside, leaving him standing on the porch crying. Friday morning, my lawyer called, sounding almost cheerful. You got an email from Jay's sister, he said. She tried to negotiate. I blinked. Negotiate what? She'll retract all accusations if you agree not to pursue legal action. She basically admitted everything. My lawyer laughed. Oh, this is beautiful. She incriminated herself. We're sending her a formal notice with a 48-hour deadline to retract her statements, apologize to your employer and landlord, and cease all contact. And if she doesn't, then we pursue a restraining order and defamation suit. I hung up and stared at the wall. She had torn through my life with a vengeance I still could not understand. She thought she could break me, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. 48 hours came and went. No apology, no retraction, no attempt at damage control. Just silence, the thick, arrogant kind that says she still thinks she's untouchable. My lawyer filed the request for a restraining order Monday morning. By Tuesday, the court date was set for Friday. Honestly, I expected Jay's sister to show up wearing that smug superiority she always carried like a perfume. What I didn't expect was the aftermath, the way everything around us began shifting, cracking, rearranging as the truth forced its way into the open. Jay called me on Wednesday. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity, or maybe exhaustion, won. He didn't say hello. His voice was barely above a whisper. Natalie, can I please see you? Just for a few minutes. I hesitated, staring at the ceiling of Marissa's apartment. You ignored me for years, I said softly. Every time I told you something was off with your sister, every time I felt uncomfortable, you insisted she had my best interests at heart. And now you want to talk. Yes, he said immediately, because I finally understand. Something in his voice stopped me. It wasn't desperation or manipulation or guilt. It was fear, a fear I recognized because I'd felt it too. I agreed to meet him the next morning at a coffee shop halfway between Marissa's place and our old apartment. When I walked in, he was already there, hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched, staring into it like the surface held answers. He looked up when I approached. Natalie. There was a tremble in his voice that hadn't been there before. I sat down. You said you needed to talk. He nodded slowly, gathering his thoughts. The silence between us wasn't hostile anymore. It was heavy, sad, almost fragile. I started therapy, he said finally. That surprised me. He continued before I could respond. I've had 3 sessions so far, and it made me realize something I didn't want to look at, something I've been ignoring my entire life. He swallowed, eyes glossy. My sister wasn't protecting me. She was controlling me, since we were kids. I stayed quiet, letting him unravel. When my dad used to drink, he whispered, voice cracking. My sister was the one who handled it. She hid things, told me what to say, what to do. And then it kept happening at school and college and relationships. When my ex cheated on me, my sister found out and told me before I even had a chance to process anything. He let out a broken laugh. I grew up believing she was always right about people, that she saw danger I couldn't see, that she had a sixth sense about who meant well and who didn't. He ran a shaky hand through his hair. When she accused you, I didn't even question it. I just reacted like a child who was told the stove was hot. He looked up at me. I'm not saying that as an excuse, just the truth. It was strange hearing him articulate the exact thing I'd sensed for years, but didn't know how to name. The dynamic between him and his sister always felt off-tethered by something deeper than normal familial loyalty. She isolated you, I said quietly. He nodded, and I let her, he whispered, because it was easier than thinking for myself. My chest tightened. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't anger either. It was grief. For him, for us, for everything that could have been different. He took a breath. I filed a police report about her false claims. I called your employer and your landlord and told them she lied. I'm doing everything I can to fix this, and I'm in therapy to make sure I never put someone I love in that position again. Then his voice cracked. I love you, Natalie. I never stopped. My throat tightened painfully. Jay, I exhaled slowly. Love doesn't undo what happened. Love doesn't erase that you looked me in the eyes and thought I could betray you. He nodded, accepting it, maybe for the first time. I know, he whispered, and I'm willing to do the work, whatever it takes. Couples counseling, individual therapy, anything. I wasn't ready to say yes, but I wasn't ready to say no anymore either. I'm not promising anything, I said, but I'm willing to speak to a counselor. Relief washed over him, not joy, not triumph, just quiet relief. Thank you, he whispered. We sat there for a long time after that, not speaking, not arguing, just existing in the same space without chaos for the first time in weeks. When I stood to leave, he didn't try to hug me. He didn't beg. He simply said, whenever you're ready. And that was more meaningful than any apology. The court hearing on Friday was brutal in a different way. Jay's sister showed up with a lawyer who looked like he specialized in late-night commercial jingles and questionable billboards. Her face was pulled into a tight mass fury mixed with fear. The judge listened to everything, the recording, the timeline, the emails, the harassment, the false reports. Her lawyer tried to claim entrapment. My lawyer shut that down instantly. He tried to claim I edited the audio. The judge asked for proof. There was none. He tried to claim I was obsessed with her. The judge nearly rolled her eyes. When Jay's sister finally spoke, she painted herself as the victim, trembling, voice, rehearsed lines, crocodile tears. But when the judge interrupted her, her expression cracked. Ma'am, the judge said firmly, according to all evidence and testimony, you are the aggressor in this situation, not the victim. Her mask shattered completely. The restraining order was granted, minimum distance 500 feet, no contact, no third-party communication, no social media references. Violating it meant immediate arrest. She simmered with rage but said nothing. Her lawyer forced her to nod. As we left the courtroom, Jay attempted to approach me, but I shook my head gently. Not here. Not like this. Outside, he stayed several steps behind me, respecting the space, for once. Later that night, I sat on Marissa's couch and thought about everything. The lies, the humiliation, the way my life had spiraled into a legal battle because someone couldn't stand being told no. But in that same tornado, something had shifted. Jay had changed, not magically, not instantly, but genuinely. His therapy wasn't performative. His apologies weren't frantic. They were grounded, painfully honest. We scheduled our first counseling session for Monday. Am I ready? Not really. But am I willing? Yes. And maybe for now that's enough. The weeks that followed felt like living inside the slow fade out of a movie. Not the dramatic climax, not the explosive moments, just the quiet aftermath, where you're forced to sit with everything that's broken and decide whether any of it can be pieced back together. Jay and I started counseling the Monday after the restraining order hearing. I went into it with my walls up, arms crossed, emotionally braced for disappointment. He walked in looking nervous, hopeful, and terrified all at once. The counselor, a sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Monroe, didn't waste time with pleasantries. She sat down, looked between us, and said, "All right, tell me why you're here." Jay spoke first. He always did when he was anxious. "Because I want to fix things," he said. "I love Natalie, and I destroyed her trust. I want to earn it back." She nodded, then looked at me. "I'm here," I said slowly, "because I'm trying to see if there's anything left to save." Jay's face tightened, hurt flickering in his eyes, but he didn't interrupt. Dr. Monroe studied us for a moment. Then she leaned forward. "Here's the truth," she said. "Trust isn't an emotion. It's a choice that has to be made again and again, especially after it's broken." That sentence stayed with me for weeks. The sessions were uncomfortable, painful, exhausting. Sometimes productive, sometimes pointless. Some days I walked out feeling like maybe we had a chance. Other days I left wanting to scream into a pillow and never see him again. Jay was trying, truly trying. But every time his phone buzzed, a quiet voice in the back of my mind whispered, "What if he's talking to her? What if he still listens to her? What if something else makes him doubt you again?" Counseling didn't silence that voice. It just made me aware it existed. And awareness wasn't the same thing as healing. Meanwhile, Jay's sister unraveled. She violated the restraining order just 3 days in sending a message through a mutual acquaintance. "You win. Happy now." I reported it. The police arrested her. Just 1 night in jail, but it was enough to rattle her veneer. Her friends who had harassed me online suddenly went silent. Apparently, consequences have a funny way of ending false bravery. My lawyer pushed forward with the defamation suit. She ignored the filing deadline, so we received a default judgment in our favor. $42,000. Money she didn't have. Money she'd be paying back for years. Her parents cut her off financially and emotionally. Her job fired her after her meltdown in the courthouse hallway made local news. She moved 2 hours away to live with a distant cousin. Sometimes I wondered if I should feel guilty, but guilt requires responsibility. She'd built this collapse with her own hands. I wasn't the architect of her downfall. I was just the person who refused to let her bury me first. 2 months into counseling, Dr. Monroe asked the question I had been avoiding. She looked at Jay, then at me. "Do you want to save this relationship?" Jay answered instantly. Yes, I didn't. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud felt like pulling life support from something that had been dying slowly. Dr. Monroe turned to me. "Natalie, you hesitated. That tells me everything." "It's not that simple," I said quietly. "It is," she replied gently. "If you're unsure, you're already gone. You're just afraid to say it." Jay looked at me like the ground had opened beneath us both. On the drive home, he asked in a soft, trembling voice, "Are you staying because you want to, or because you feel guilty?" I didn't answer. And that silence gave him the truth. I filed for separation the next week. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, just acceptance. Acceptance that trust wasn't a muscle you could force back to life. Acceptance that love wasn't enough without safety. Acceptance that every time he looked at his phone, I felt my stomach twist. Acceptance that every time someone mentioned his family, I felt sick. When I told him, he didn't shout. He didn't beg. He just cried quietly, nodding with heartbreak and resignation. "I understand," he whispered. "I really do." We divided everything evenly. We agreed not to renew the lease. He moved in with a coworker. I found a small 1-bedroom in another part of town. There was no screaming, no dramatic finale, just the slow, painful unwinding of 2 people who had once tried so hard to make it work. Our last conversation happened a week before I moved. He stood in the doorway of our half-empty apartment, the one we once filled with laughter and arguments and plans for a future that no longer existed. "Do you hate me?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "I just can't be with someone who thinks so little of me." He blinked, hurt flickering across his face. "I didn't think little of you. When it mattered most," I said softly, "you did." He nodded, tears streaking down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know." We said goodbye in the middle of a living room, missing furniture, missing our photos, missing the version of us that died the moment he believed his sister over me. Now I'm healing. Therapy helps, running helps, silence helps. I donated half of the settlement money to a domestic violence shelter. I kept the rest for legal fees and future stability. I made new friends, started a new job, went on a few dates, nothing serious. For the first time in months, I wake up without anxiety pressing on my chest. Last week, I opened my phone, scrolled to the audio file, the recording that both destroyed and saved my life. I listened to the first 10 seconds. Then I deleted it. Not because I forgave anyone, but because I finally understood something profound. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When someone refuses to believe you, despite years of loyalty and love, believe that too. Some relationships die from betrayal. Ours died from belief. The wrong belief. His belief in her over me. I'm closing this chapter now, not with revenge, not with bitterness, but with the quiet strength of someone who survived the kind of heartbreak that rewrites a life.